Hello, dear friends. This is Dr. Zazaria. Before we begin, write in the comments which city you're from. I am very curious to know where those who care about their health live. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because today I will share information that could radically change the condition of your hair. I assure you, after watching this video, you will never wash your hair the same way again. In 30 years of my medical practice, I have helped restore hair for more than 2,000 patients. But today I will finally reveal the methods I used only for my most cherished private clients. Why have I remained silent for so long? I was afraid of losing my job. These methods are so effective that people might stop seeking expensive procedures at the clinic. Yesterday, Elena Mikhailovna, 72 years old from Sochi, came to my office. She cried in the room and said, "Doctor, I am afraid to wash my hair. Every time I see more hair going down the drain, I feel like soon there will be nothing left." Her story deeply moved me, and I realized I could no longer remain on the sidelines. Too many people suffer, not knowing the simple truths about how to care for their hair. The fact is that most of the methods I use in the clinic are based on ordinary home remedies. Yes, you heard that right. Those procedures that people pay tens of thousands of rubles for can be done at home for almost free. Pharmaceutical companies are not interested in you discovering these secrets. They benefit from selling expensive shampoos, lotions, and pills. But real results come from simple things found in every home. Over the years, I kept detailed records of all hair restoration cases and was amazed that patients who strictly followed my home recommendations showed results even better than those who spent huge amounts on salon treatments. This made me wonder if we are deceiving ourselves by complicating what should be simple. But the most terrifying discovery awaited me ahead. 2 years ago, I decided to conduct a large-scale study among my patients. I gathered 500 people of various ages, from 40 to 80 years old, all of whom complained of severe hair loss. For 6 months, I studied their daily hair care habits. Every week, I recorded how much hair they were losing, what their scalp looked like, and what products they used. The results of this study shocked me. It turned out that 90% of people make the same critical mistakes every day, and the worst part is they don't even realize it. Moreover, many of them took pride in their correct hair care. They bought expensive shampoos, used many masks and conditioners, spending significant amounts. But when I compared the amount of hair loss among different groups, I was struck by what I saw. People who followed common recommendations for washing their hair lost 7 times more hair than a small group of patients who intuitively followed the methods I now call secret protocols. 7 times. Just imagine the scale of the problem. I began to carefully investigate what the difference was and soon discovered 3 critical mistakes that almost everyone makes. These mistakes are so destructive that they can turn healthy scalp into a lifeless wasteland within just a few years of seemingly proper care. The first of these destructive habits concerns the temperature of the water. The overwhelming majority of people wash their hair with hot water, believing that the higher the temperature, the better it will remove dirt and grease. This is a catastrophic misconception. When the water temperature exceeds 38 degrees, a real catastrophe begins at the cellular level in the scalp. Imagine what happens to the protein when you boil an egg in hot water. It coagulates and hardens. The same occurs with the protein structures of hair follicles when exposed to hot water. Each drop of such water is like a microscopic explosion, destroying delicate protein bonds in hair roots. For many years, I took numerous photographs of the scalp under a powerful microscope. Every time I observed the effects of hot water, I felt chills down my spine. The scalp after a hot shower resembles a battlefield. Tiny blood vessels burst from the thermal shock, epidermal cells shrink and die, and hair roots begin to literally boil in the hot water. This process does not happen instantly. Destruction accumulates day by day, month by month. A person does not notice any changes in the first years. But after 40 years of regularly washing their hair with hot water, the follicles become so damaged that they simply stop producing healthy hair. It is not surprising that by the age of 60, many have only sparse hair where once there was a thick mane. But temperature shock is not the only problem. Hot water washes away the natural protective layer, sebum, from the scalp. This thin, fatty barrier is formed by sebaceous glands to protect the skin from external influences. When we wash it off with aggressive hot water, the scalp becomes defenseless against irritants. In response to such aggression, the body begins to produce sebum at an increased rate. The glands are working at their limit, trying to restore the protective barrier. However, excess skin oil mixes with dead skin cells, creating ideal conditions for the proliferation of pathogenic bacteria. chronic inflammation begins, further damaging the hair follicles. As a result, a vicious cycle forms. The more often a person washes their hair with hot water, the greasier it becomes, leading to more frequent washing, which further damages the already harmed scalp. This vicious cycle can continue for decades, ultimately leading to almost complete baldness. The second fatal mistake strikes me with its widespread occurrence. 95% of people pour shampoo directly onto their scalp. When I first realized the scale of this problem, my hair literally stood on end. Imagine pouring concentrated acid on an open wound. It's similar to what happens when undiluted shampoo touches damp scalp. Modern shampoos contain aggressive surfactants like sulfates, which are designed to dissolve grease and impurities. In diluted form, they are relatively safe, but in concentrated form, they become a true weapon of mass destruction for your hair follicles. When you squeeze shampoo directly onto your head, these sulfates instantly penetrate the skin pores at maximum concentration. They literally burn the protective lipid barrier of the scalp from the inside. Imagine what happens to delicate tissue when a solvent is poured on it. It starts to break down at the molecular level. I have personally observed under a microscope how follicles look after such chemical exposure. This is a horrifying picture. The cells surrounding the hair root are literally melting, replaced by scar tissue. Coarse, non-functional cells that will never produce healthy hair again. This process is irreversible. Once damaged in this way, the follicle can no longer fully recover. It may continue to produce hair for a while, but they become thinner, weaker, and lifeless. Eventually, the follicle ceases its activity and is covered by connective tissue. The most terrifying thing is that people do not notice this destruction for years. The damage accumulates slowly but surely. Every shampoo applied directly to the scalp is another step towards baldness. And a person sincerely believes they are doing everything right. He sees abundant foam on his head and rejoices that his hair is being well washed. However, beneath this deceptive foam, a real chemical disaster is taking place. Concentrated sulfates penetrate deeper into the tissues, destroying not only the surface cells, but also deeper structures. They damage the smallest blood vessels that nourish the hair, disrupting circulation. The follicles begin to starve and gradually atrophy. The correct technique requires pre-lathering the shampoo in the hands. When you dilute the concentration with water and air, its aggressiveness decreases tenfold. The foam is evenly distributed across the scalp, creating no localized areas of high chemical concentration. However, most people consider this a waste of time. They are in a hurry and don't want to bother with pre-lathering. In the end, they save a few seconds but lose hair for the rest of their lives. What cruel irony. The third dangerous habit is massaging the scalp with nails while washing hair. People sincerely believe that scratching their nails will ensure better rinsing of their hair. In reality, each touch of the nail to the scalp is a microscopic injury, an invisible wound through which pathogenic bacteria enter. The skin on the head is much thinner and more sensitive than on other parts of the body. The thickness of the epidermis there is only a few tenths of a millimeter. When you scratch it with your nails, you're actually tearing this delicate protective layer into many small pieces. Each micro-injury becomes an entry point for infection. Bacteria, fungi, and other pathogenic microorganisms rush into the opened gaps and begin to actively multiply in the warm and humid environment, leading to chronic inflammation that can last for months or even years. Inflamed tissues swell, compress blood vessels, and disrupt the nourishment of hair follicles. The roots of the hair find themselves in a state of oxygen deprivation and constant intoxication from bacterial waste products. Follicles begin to function under extreme conditions, trying to survive. As a result, the hair becomes thin and brittle, then starts to fall out more frequently, and eventually, the inflammation becomes so severe that it completely destroys the hair and follicle, leaving only a scar where the healthy hair follicle once was, a patch of dead connective tissue from which nothing will ever grow again. In elderly people, this process occurs especially quickly and destructively. With age, the regenerative abilities of the skin sharply decline. If a small scratch heals in a few days in youth, then after 60 years, even a microscopic wound can become inflamed for weeks. Imagine an 80-year-old man who has been scratching his scalp with his nails every time he washes his hair. His skin is covered with thousands of tiny scars, constantly inflamed. In such conditions, hair and follicles cannot function properly. It is no wonder that by old age, such people are left with only sparse hair on their heads. However, even when I explain to patients the danger of this habit, Many insist on their own. They say, "Doctor, if I don't scratch, it feels like my hair is dirty." This is a typical misconception. The cleanliness of hair is not related to the intensity of mechanical action. On the contrary, the more carefully you treat your scalp, the better its health and ability to self-cleanse. And now, the most important revelation for which I decided to share this information. A few years ago, I attended an international dermatologists conference in Zurich. One of the speakers, German professor Hans Müller, presented research that completely changed my views on hair loss treatment. He talked about the amazing properties of ordinary caffeine when applied externally. It turns out that when caffeine is applied directly to the scalp, it can block the action of dihydrotestosterone, a hormone that destroys hair follicles. This hormone is present in both men and women, and its destructive influence only increases with age. Dihydrotestosterone binds to specialized receptors in hair follicles, effectively programming them for death. The follicles begin to shrink, producing thinner and weaker hair, and then completely cease their activity. This process was considered irreversible, and many doctors simply shrugged, claiming that nothing could be done about age-related baldness. But studies showed that caffeine could compete with dihydrotestosterone for the same receptors. Caffeine molecules structurally resemble those of a destructive hormone and can occupy its place, blocking its harmful effects. This discovery was a true revolution in trichology. Professor Müller presented the results of an experiment involving 240 people with various stages of baldness. Half of the participants applied a caffeine solution to their scalps daily for 6 months, while the other half used a placebo. The results exceeded all expectations. In the group using caffeine, the number of hairs increased on average by 67%. The hair not only became thicker but also stronger and gained a healthy shine. Many participants in the experiment began to grow hair even in areas considered hopelessly bald. When I saw the before and after photos, I simply couldn't believe my eyes. People with extensive bald patches looked decades younger after 6 months of caffeine therapy, all without surgeries, transplants, or costly procedures. I immediately contacted Professor Müller and asked him to share the detailed methodology. It turned out that it was not only about the caffeine itself, but also about the way it was applied. A certain concentration, the right temperature of the solution, and precise timing were needed. Upon returning home, I began my own clinical trials. My first patient was 83-year-old Viktor Ivanovich from Krasnodar. He had a classic male baldness, a completely bald crown, and sparse hair on the sides. He came to me more out of curiosity than with hope for a result. When I suggested he apply coffee to his head, he laughed at first. "Doctor, if that really helped, all bald people would have been using instant coffee," he said. But in the end, he agreed to try it, as he had nothing to lose. A month later, Viktor Ivanovich came for a checkup. The external changes were not yet noticeable, but under the microscope, I saw an astonishing picture. The dormant follicles on his scalp began to awaken. Signs of activity appeared in the hair follicles, blood flow increased, and the cell division process began. A month later, a barely noticeable fuzz appeared on the bald crown, and Viktor Ivanovich was thrilled. "Doctor, my wife noticed that something is starting to grow on my head." 3 months later, changes became noticeable, even to those around. A small fuzz had turned into full hair, although it was still thin and sparse. The most impressive results appeared by the 6th month of therapy. Viktor Ivanovich had literally transformed. His baldness had significantly decreased, and his hair had become thick and dark. He looked at least 15 years younger than his age. Even his gait had changed. A confidence emerged that had been absent for many years. It's astonishing that this man took expensive hair loss medications for over 10 years, but they yielded no results. Yet, ordinary home coffee turned out to be what modern pharmaceuticals could not achieve. This made me reconsider my views on treating alopecia. So how does caffeine affect the scalp? Let me explain the mechanism in simple terms. When caffeine molecules penetrate the skin, 3 key processes occur. Firstly, caffeine instantly expands the smallest blood vessels, the capillaries that nourish the hair and follicles. Imagine dried plants that have not been watered for a long time. The roots shrivel, the leaves wilt, but as soon as you water the plant, it literally comes back to life before your eyes. The same happens to hair follicles under the influence of caffeine. Dilated vessels begin to deliver significantly more oxygen, nutrients, vitamins, and minerals to the follicles. Dehydrated hair roots receive the long-awaited nourishment and start to actively recover. Secondly, Caffeine acts as a powerful energy stimulant at the cellular level, triggering the production of special molecules, adenosine triphosphate, which are the primary source of energy for all biological processes. It is like turning on the lights in a factory that has long been shut down. Suddenly, all mechanisms come to life, and active work begins. Under the influence of caffeine, cell division sharply activates in the hair follicles. Dormant stem cells awaken and start producing new hair shaft cells. The process of keratin synthesis, the main protein of hair, accelerates sharply. The follicle rejuvenates and begins to produce strong and healthy hair. The third mechanism of caffeine's action involves blocking the destructive hormone dihydrotestosterone. This hormone accumulates in the tissues of the scalp with age and acts like a slow poison for the hair follicles. It binds to special receptors in the follicles and triggers their self-destruction program. Caffeine molecules have a similar chemical structure and can occupy the same receptors as dihydrotestosterone. But instead of destruction, they bring life energy and growth stimulation to the follicles, resembling a switch from harmful food to healthy alternatives. The result changes drastically. Now, the most important thing is how to properly prepare and use the healing coffee solution. Attention! For the first time, I am sharing a method that was previously used only by my private patients and for a considerable fee. You will need exclusively natural ground coffee without instant or capsule coffee. The reason is that during the production of instant coffee, most active substances are destroyed. We need the maximum concentration of caffeine and other biologically active compounds. Brew coffee with triple strength, like espresso in a cafe. Use 3 full teaspoons of ground coffee for 1 cup of water. Pour water at about 90 degrees, not boiling. Steep for at least 15 minutes for all beneficial substances to dissolve. It is important for the solution to cool completely. It should reach room temperature or even be a little cool. Never apply warm or hot coffee to the scalp, as it can cause burns and worsen inflammation. Strain the resulting solution through cheesecloth or a fine sieve to remove coffee grounds that may clog skin pores and cause irritation. Pour the filtered solution into a sterile spray bottle or dispenser. Use the coffee solution strictly 15 minutes before washing your hair. This is the optimal time for the active substances to penetrate the skin and begin their action. Leaving it on longer may cause irritation, while a shorter time will weaken the effect. Evenly spray the solution over the entire scalp, paying special attention to problem areas, the crown, temples, and hairline. Do not apply coffee to the hair itself. Our goal is specifically the scalp and roots. After applying, be sure to massage the scalp with your fingertips in gentle circular motions, without using your nails. The massage improves circulation and helps active ingredients penetrate deeper into the tissues. Imagine gently stroking the head of your beloved child. This is the tenderness with which one should treat the scalp. Massage for 2 to 3 minutes, then leave the solution to act for the remaining 15 minutes. After that, wash your hair as usual, following the previously described recommendations, with warm water, lathering the shampoo in your hands and not using your nails. The smell of coffee almost doesn't remain after washing, especially if using quality shampoo. However, coffee therapy is only the first part of my innovative method. The thing is, restoring hair roots makes no sense if the hair itself remains dry, brittle, and lifeless. Many of my patients complained about this. I remember how 69-year-old Lydia Petrovna from Rostov-on-Don came to me. She said, "Doctor, I feel that something has started to grow on my head after your coffee treatments, but my hair still looks like straw. Dry, dull, constantly tangling and breaking at the ends." Upon closer inspection, I noticed that her dormant follicles had indeed begun to activate, and new hairs were appearing. However, the existing hair was seriously damaged due to improper care over the years. The structure of the hair was damaged, the protective cuticle was compromised, and the inner shaft was suffering from dehydration. At that moment, I suggested to Lydia Petrovna to complement the coffee therapy with an oil protective treatment. At first, she was skeptical about the idea. "Doctor, my hair gets greasy quickly. Why add oil?" I explained to her that there is a difference between greasiness at the roots and dryness at the ends of the hair. As one ages, the sebaceous glands function unevenly. Excess oil can form at the roots, while the long hair does not receive enough protection, resulting in oily roots and dry, split ends. Modern shampoos exacerbate this problem as they contain aggressive cleansing agents that wash away not only dirt, but also the natural protection of hair. After such washing, hair remains completely defenseless against any external influences. The hot air from the dryer, ultraviolet rays from the sun, and chemicals from the polluted atmosphere gradually destroy unprotected hair. It loses moisture, protein bonds break down, and the structure becomes porous and fragile. The preliminary application of protective oil creates a thin film around each hair, serving as a shield against the aggressive effects of shampoo, preventing damage to the internal structure of the hair. Moreover, the oil is rich in fats, soluble vitamins, and other nutrients that penetrate the hair shaft and restore damaged areas. Lydia Petrovna decided to try the oil protection. I recommended coconut oil to her, as it is perfect for mature hair due to its unique composition. Coconut oil contains lauric acid, molecules small enough to penetrate the hair shaft and restore it from within. Applying oil is very simple. Take an amount equal to a small coin, no more. Rub it between warm palms to warm the oil and make it more fluid. Apply it only to the length of the hair, starting from the middle and down to the tips, avoiding the roots and scalp. Keep the oil in your hair for 10 to 15 minutes to allow it to penetrate damaged areas and initiate restorative processes. Then apply coffee solution to the scalp, and after 15 minutes, wash your hair as usual. 2 weeks later, Lydia Petrovna called me and uttered words I would never forget. "Doctor, my hair has become like silk. I haven't felt such pleasure from touching it in a long time. It shines, doesn't tangle, and combs easily. Even my husband noticed that I look different. But there is another secret that I learned quite recently. For very mature hair, rice oil works even better than coconut oil. It is harder to find in regular stores, but the effect is simply amazing. Rice oil contains 3 times more vitamin E than any other vegetable oils. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that effectively protects hair from oxidative stress. As we age, free radicals accumulate in our bodies, aggressive molecules capable of damaging cells from within. Hair is susceptible to their negative effects, becoming dull and brittle. Rice oil helps neutralize free radicals and even rejuvenates hair on a molecular level. It also contains unique fatty acids that restore the damaged hair cuticle. But that's not all. Now prepare for a real surprise. What I'm about to tell you may seem incredible, but it is a confirmed scientific fact. Ordinary dishes in your kitchen may hide a danger for your hair. Over the years of work, I noticed a strange pattern. Patients with the most severe forms of baldness had one common feature. They regularly used stainless steel or plastic dishes. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, thinking it was just a coincidence. However, when several dozen such cases accumulated, I decided to investigate in more detail. It turned out that modern materials used to make dishes are far from as safe as we think. When heated, they release chemical compounds that enter the body. Stainless steel contains chromium and nickel, heavy metals that leach into food in microscopic amounts when heated. Plastic, on the other hand, releases even more dangerous substances like phthalates and bisphenol A. These compounds are called endocrine disruptors because they negatively affect the hormonal system. Accumulating in the body over the years, these toxins interfere with the absorption of vital minerals for hair, such as zinc, iron, and selenium. They can also disrupt hormonal balance, increasing the production of dihydrotestosterone, which destroys hair follicles. Studies show that people using ceramic or glass dishes face hair loss problems 40% less often. This is a significant difference that is hard to ignore. Ceramics and glass are chemically inert materials. They do not interact with food, even at high temperatures. Wooden spoons and spatulas are also safer than metal ones. Therefore, I strongly recommend replacing all metal and plastic dishes with ceramic or glass ones. I understand this will require some financial investment, but think about how much you have already spent on hair treatment. Quality ceramic dishes will last for decades and justify themselves by preserving your health. Additionally, pay attention to food storage containers. Plastic containers, in which many heat food in the microwave, pose a particular danger. When heated, plastic releases the maximum amount of toxins. By replacing them with glass, you significantly reduce the chemical load on the body. Also, try to avoid hot drinks from plastic cups. Hot coffee or tea actively extracts harmful substances from plastic. It is preferable to use ceramic mugs or glass cups. These simple changes in your household may seem insignificant, but their effect accumulates and becomes significant. By doing this, you will avoid the intake of many toxins. Your hair will thank you for it. Let me tell you a story that clearly demonstrates the power of a comprehensive approach. Marina Vasilievna, 76 years old from Voronezh, came to me in despair. Her hair was falling out in strands, and large bald patches formed on her head. With tears in her eyes, she spoke of her father being completely bald and her husband losing all his hair by 50. She believed it was an inheritance she could do nothing about. Marina Vasilievna accepted her fate and wore a wig. She came to me more for moral support than with hope for real help, but I convinced her to try my comprehensive method, which included coffee therapy, oil protection, dish replacement, as well as dietary and lifestyle adjustments. In the first 3 months, the changes were barely noticeable. Marina Vasilievna even wanted to stop the treatment, thinking she was wasting her time. I asked her to wait a little longer, knowing from experience that recovery happens more slowly in elderly people, and patience was rewarded. By the 4th month, a fine fluff appeared on the bald patches. By 6 months, her hair had transformed into real, albeit sparse and fine strands. By the end of the year, Marina Vasilievna was able to give up her wig. When she came for a checkup, I barely recognized her. Her hair had become thick and shiny, her face looked younger, her gait had changed, and her confidence had returned. "Doctor," she said with a smile, "my daughter claims I look 15 years younger. Friends ask if I've had plastic surgery, but the most important change affected not only my appearance, but also my inner state." Marina Vasilievna started going to the theater again, meeting friends, and traveling. She confessed, "I used to avoid crowded places, embarrassed by my appearance. Now I enjoy looking at myself in the mirror." Such stories inspire me to continue my work. When hair is restored, a person's self-esteem is restored, and along with it, their entire life. People begin to feel differently, hold themselves differently, and communicate with those around them. Remember, your hair depends not on genetics, but on daily habits. 4 simple changes can prevent 80% of cases of age-related baldness. Coffee water to stimulate follicles, oil protection before washing, ceramic dishes instead of metal, and a gentle massage with fingertips. But the most important thing is to start right today. Every day of delay means the loss of hundreds of hair follicles that will never recover. Do not wait for the problem to become critical. Act immediately. If you are ready to change your life, write in the comments that you are starting a revolution today. I will personally read each comment and provide personalized recommendations based on your specific situation. I will regularly share useful information to help maintain health and beauty for many years. Stay with us and be healthy.